Hello, I'm Toycat and I am in the Heartwood National Forest and I just crashed a car for the first time. I hit a sign and I did a lot of bodywork damage, and the end result of it, after I've got insurance and everything, is that it seems as though I'm going to be paying somewhere in the region of about £1,000 to fix the bodywork, because it's not my car and you have to fix those sorts of things. And that is quite a disastrous outcome, you might say. It was actually quite hassle-free to deal with it. I just had to describe the incident, blah blah blah. Someone comes over, they pick it up, they give me another car for the meantime, then they come drop off the finished car, everything's good, then the bill comes at some point and everything's wonderful. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit because that sounds like a really easy procedure if you want it to sound like that, or it sounds really stressful to say the numbers, to say the money amount out loud, to say the big hit, the financial penalty that has been thrown upon me, and like, oh god, now I have to deal with like 3 separate people, you know, the insurance people and a repair guy and a guy who's going to pick it up, and there's a huge amount of money. Like even if you try to be like really casual about £1,000, you want to pretend you're super rich, like that's still, like, again, like if you made let's pick an amount, right, like you earn £365,000 in a year, that's still, even at that point, you're still talking about a day's salary wiped out, except it's more than a day's, because even if you earn £365,000 a year, you know, you pay taxes on like half of that, so really it's like 2 days of salary wiped out for even a rich person, you know, or rather a high salary person. Crazy stuff, right? But I wanted to talk about how you can see things in 2 ways, and why, because a lot of people just say don't stress stuff, especially as you get older. Maybe you could say you learn not to stress about things, or you could say people just stop stressing about as many things. But I really do think there are just 2 types of person: the type who will stress about something, who'll go, oh my god, this is awful, blah blah blah, and the type who can go, yeah, it's fine, that's what happened. And it sounds like everyone usually has this big benefit of like, man, my way is the objective correct way. If you're not stressing about $1,000-onies, didgeridoo bucks, you know, euros, if you're not stressed about an amount that starts with a 1 and ends with lots of extra digits, you probably should be, is a really easy view to have. And ultimately it's the one that I think I subscribe to, because you can say don't stress about things all you like, and ultimately what's the point in stressing about something that has happened? Like, there is, regardless of how much I stress about it, I will have a fun conversation with a repair guy and a fun conversation with a representative from the car rental company, you know, like working out like, what replacement car do you want? And I'll say, I don't really intend to drive it much, this is literally me driving it home. And you know, I'll have these fun conversations, and by fun I mean there'll be a drain on my day. Like, I'll have to have a social effort. Look at this, by the way, there's a little beaver, or a rat maybe. You know, this rat won't bite me, look how friendly it is. You know, it would be more fun if the rat bit me. That'd be a much better video, have to say. But yeah, ultimately the decision, like, to stress or not stress, like, doesn't change whether the bad things are going to happen. Once they're set in motion, like, feeling bad about something doesn't make it go away, it just makes it worse. If you feel really negative about some presentation you've got to give, or about some phone call you've got to have, or about some big task that is coming up in your future, it doesn't make the big task go away. It doesn't make the presentation not happen. It doesn't mean that people aren't going to contact you. You're still going to have all those things, so why stress about them? If you just go into everything with a relaxed attitude, all your problems will seemingly fade away. But the reason that I think you've got to stress, and the reason I'm going to defend feeling really bad about things, is because you're trying to send, you know, the reason we, if you think about PTSD, right, it's something, like, people have this in their childhood, like, more, but it happens to adults even, like, even 20-something-year-old men going off to war, having some really disastrous things happen, and then they can't adjust to real society after that anymore. It is a thing that happens, right? We can all agree PTSD is real, hopefully. But that's an extreme version. That's like the traumatic disorder version of what I'm talking about. I don't think I'm going to go this way. I think it's quite muddy. I just like the big wooden pillar. But yeah, so like sending signals to your brain like this thing was bad, do not want, is a valuable way to train yourself to do things. And it seems really silly, like, why are you talking about yourself like you're a child or a monkey toy cat? I literally can't go this way either, actually. It's you know, it would be fun to slip into a bunch of mud. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, actually, I think that's the end of the sentence. It would be fun to step in a bunch of mud. Don't get me wrong. But, yeah, I find it to be endlessly fascinating, the fact that you can train yourself as an adult. We all believe, and it's like very essential to believe, that, like, yeah, adults are in full control of what they're doing all of the time. Children, oh, who knows about those? Children don't have rights or responsibilities in our society. But once you turn 18, you're in full control and fully responsible for everything you do. Sometimes we like to go the other way and we like to pretend that everyone's a child all the time. Like, oh yeah, just because he stabbed a few people doesn't mean he should go to prison. Or, you know, just because this guy is doing drugs every day instead of, you know, helping out in society, doesn't mean we should look down on him or, you know, deny him access to all the fun things that we enjoy in life. This is not the way to anything, by the way. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just hate double backing myself. So I like to do some questionable... Okay, you know, there's an edge of the forest here. I think I cannot... If I go that way, I hit a farmer's field or something. As long as there's cows, I think I'm down for farmer's field. You know, who needs a national forest when you got some cows, right? But, like I was saying, the truth is that the human brain is kind of inherently an adult and a child. I think the reason the stereotype, I think this is like a Star Wars thing, like the Master and the Apprentice, but the reason that model works so well, the Sith Lord and his Padawan or whatever, I'm not going to pretend I know Star Wars well enough to know what I'm talking about here. But the reason that model works so well is not only because it's how we parent our young, right? Like, you teach someone, you know, we have teachers that teach you what to do. We have parents that teach you how to life. We have, when you join a new job, the really senior guy there who's like really relaxed about everything, even the things that stress you out as someone who's brand new. And so having all of these, having this model of someone who knows how to do things and someone who has panicked and does not know and needs to learn is not only something that happens externally, it happens internally. We have two brains. I read a book by Daniel, and then it's a really long last name, I don't know the last thing, but he reckons there's two types of brain, type 1 and type 2. It's the book's called Thinking Fast and Slow. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. But you know, the basic idea, as you can guess from the title, is that you have two brains. Call one the smart brain, and call one the dumb brain. Or like, the way I like to simplify it is you've got a lizard brain, a monkey brain, and you've got a really well intelligent, a really smart, developed brain that is the best of us. But you know, you have a scientist inside of you, like a astrophysicist, and you have a redneck inside of you that laughs at someone being kicked in the nuts, right? Or an adult and a child, perhaps you could say. But you have two brains inherently, and that sounds ridiculous, but it's actually true. Think about, at least for 99% of you who have an inner monologue, think about what you need to do to watch this video, and now think about what you need to do to answer the question, what is 6 times 12? Or maybe I'll pick a bigger number, what is 6 times 18? There you go. That's going to take some thinking. You can get to the answer relatively quickly, but in your brain, maybe, I assume, something like 70% of people have to think out loud and go, like you're talking to yourself almost, going, well, 6 times 10 is this, 6 times 8 is that, the total is 108, boom, there we go. Like, you have to think. You can't, no one, once you get to a big enough maths problem, or you get to, you know, like certain big decisions, you can't do it unconsciously without thinking about it out loud, if you get what I'm saying. There is a brain that can do really complex things, and then there's the brain that you need to, you know, I think a good example would be the brain you need to eat food. You don't need to be thinking about every bite and going like, ooh, well, I think I should, I've got to start with the potatoes. I'm gonna have one bite of potato, then I'm gonna throw a little bit of thyme on the next bite, so it's a bit more herby. Then I'm gonna go back to a regular potato bite. Then I'm gonna put some salt on it. You're not doing all of that thinking, right? You're just like, oh no, there be food in front of me, I eat the food. You know, like a stupid brain, you can call that a child, you can call that a monkey, you can call that whatever you want to call it, a lizard. But you have inherently two parts of your thinking. And a lot of people, the way, if you imagine that as just being, yeah, there's the same brain and sometimes you put more and less effort in, probably correct, but less useful than to separate it, because there are lots of things you're doing unconsciously all the time. You cannot, your active brain, not only does it use more calories because it's doing a lot more intense activity, but also it can only think about one thing at a time. You need to think about a lot of things at a time. I need to think about the fact that I need to be breathing every 20 seconds, right? I need to be walking my body. I need to make sure I'm keeping a track on the terrain. Like right now, there's a slippy bit. I need to think how I'm going to stay. You know, I need to make sure I don't fall over. I need to be keeping an eye on anyone if there's like a dangerous-looking man running towards me with a knife. I need to be like just scanning my surroundings occasionally. I need to be thinking about what I'm going to be talking about next, and then I'm using my conscious brain to make sure that I'm like trying to connect to the previous things that I've just said. You need to be. I need to do all those things right now. If I was consciously thinking, okay, I'm going to hold this camera at this angle, I'm going to walk and make sure I don't slip, I'm going to make sure that I'm continuously talking, keeping the thoughts going, and I'm going to try and have some meaning behind what I'm saying, I'm going to start breaking real quick. If you try to give your conscious brain multiple tasks, like people say that they can multitask quite well, it's a myth. You can do unconscious tasks and mix them with conscious tasks. It's really hard to do two very conscious tasks. Try and do, you know, 24 times 12, and also do at the same time, like try to also Google at the same time as you're doing that, who Marilyn Monroe's husband was. There you go. Does she have one? Probably not, I'm guessing. So like, you know, trying to stack those details, trying to do two things that take active effort, maybe two maths problems at the same time is a better example, is very hard, as it turns out. We are not necessarily built for doing lots and lots of different things consciously, and so the smart evolution is having as smart a possible brain, right? Like, we are getting smarter every generation. You know, the fact that we can do, there are people who know rocket physics all the way and can work out what it takes to get us to the moon or to Mars, and there are people who can work out how to terraform Mars. Like, we're really, really smart as people. Some people are, at least. You know, even if you're not smart in those ways, I'm using science as an example, you know, if you're really emotionally intelligent and you can walk into a room, feel what people are feeling, and then work out what they need, you know, that is a really, really hard thing to think about. Like, to look at 6 separate people, feel the emotions in that room, and work out what could make everyone be better in that, you know, like that's a hard thing to do too. It's a less of a spoken out version. Or like, I don't know, working out when you're safe and when you're not. You know, it's something that happens unconsciously, but there's a lot of conscious thinking that goes into it. And so, yeah, I guess what I'm saying here is that we are incredibly smart, but it's also not efficient to be using your smart brain all the time. It's really, really inefficient, in fact, because again, if you just imagine it as like, if you're really good at running, you should be able to run in a way that doesn't like exhaust you and make you have heart failure every time. And like, you know, like a good runner is, when you get really good at exercise, right? Your heart rate gets lower. Like, you don't need as much heart rate to do the same amount of exercise. That is good, right? You're using less of your body to achieve the same amount. You can also do more by pushing to that same previous amount, but you lower your heart rate when you get good at exercise. I don't know the full biology on why, I'm going to be honest with you, because that's not my specialty. But you know, it is a thing that happens to people, because using less resources to achieve the same thing is just as good as achieving more. And so in the same way, our brains are getting smarter, but they're also getting way better at working out how to not use the brain. We're doing more and more to give the example of driving, right? Because that's quite relevant where this whole point starts. In the example of driving, you have you know, you are doing a thing that is very, very serious. Anytime you are driving, you are at risk of you're at minimum at risk of damaging the surroundings, maybe a post. You're at risk of damaging the surroundings, but you're also at some risk of, you know, you're at risk in some level of damaging yourself. You're damaging other people, like their property. There's like there are so many different things that are like some of the worst things we do in society, and it's just happening all the time when you're driving. But yeah, even something so serious, once you get good enough at it, or maybe let's say once you get lazy enough with it, we could say, if you want to go your way on this, once you get experienced enough at driving, it becomes an unconscious activity. I don't need to think when I'm approaching a junction, oh, I'm going to cross oncoming traffic now, and then that oncoming traffic is going to and then so I need to make sure both lanes are clear. Whereas if you're turning left, if you're turning into same way traffic, you only need to check your lane. You don't need to worry about the other lane. I don't need to think about those things at junctions. I can put my effort into making sure I do the observations, making sure I know what's around me, and then that is actually safer than if I had to think to myself, what am I looking for exactly? What are the freak potential situations here? Because then I'd slow things down, and that could cause issues with other people, right? If you can move something conscious into the unconscious brain, if you can move something from your smart human brain into your dumb lizard monkey brain, then you are making a efficient thing happen. And so that is why I think that you can argue you should never stress about something, because I mean, it's happened anyway. But ultimately, I think what I've learned is, so the way things happened is my car was like on a little bit of a gradient, and I tried to pull it right to get around the lamppost. I was sure that as I pulled right it would happen, but what I didn't realize is that the gradient was too much for the car to handle. The wheel didn't get right in time, and so I hit the post like 7 miles per hour or something. But that's what happened, and so that caused me again, like, you know, even if we imagine I'm the world's richest man, 2 days earnings, it's more than that, you know, like that actually, I did an 18-hour stream on Christmas Eve. I think that is about the earnings pre-tax that I made, so more than that. 18 hours of work doing something which admittedly, like, I enjoyed, so maybe you can wipe things out that way and be less stressed and say, well, you're gonna do more work to get, like, it's not gonna you're not giving up at this point, and now you've pushed back retirement by 2 days, although, you know, probably have done that to some extent, you could argue. The reason you need to stress is because stress is the signal you can send yourself to be like, this is really bad, let's try not to be in this again. If you never stress about anything, then if I just don't care about this and I go, oh yeah, that happened, if I have literally zero stress, because I think what most people say when they say don't stress is like, stress less. Stress less is a really good idea. You should do that. You should have less stress than you have right now. What is your stress bringing you once it goes past a certain point? The answer is nothing. But if you literally didn't care, you're like, hit the post, guess I gotta call the company, I'll have a nice cuppa while I do this, it'll be a fun time calling them, really. If you have precisely zero stress, then now the next time you're in a situation where your car is at an angle and you know that you probably won't make it, you're not going to be consciously thinking like, oh yeah, this was bad last time. This results in a lot more than just a little bump. This results in free phone calls. Man, I hate phone calls so much. I've been avoiding, I'll avoid phone calls for months. So I'm getting 3 of them in one day. Maybe 2 one day, maybe 1 another day. I'm having a day turned into, I'll go to record a video and I'll get a phone call that's going to be important. I'll have to stop the video, so some of my favorite things are going to be interrupted by some of my least favorite things now. And then there's the financial cost, and then there's the, I don't know, does this have some permanent impact? I don't believe it does, because it's not my car, not my insurance, etc. Maybe it does though. I don't know. Maybe they won't want to rent me a car again. I don't actually know what happens details necessarily. But what I do know is that it would be better to not have this happen, right? I think you need to have the minimum, like, I think when people say don't stress, the only way that they can be correct in that opinion is if they mean have the little bit of like, oh, that sucks. You know, have like a bad emotion spike and then move on. Having repeated bad emotion spikes on the same event is, I mean, like how you get PTSD, right? Is how, you know, like social anxiety and like all these like things that we have that make us like debilitated on in a public context, like, oh god, what if they do this and then that leads to this, this, you know, there was this one time I made a joke and people didn't laugh and it was the worst thing, and now I can never tell a joke again because of how bad I have made that situation in my head. Making things worse than they are isn't useful. It might be worse to minimize bad things to some extent if you just the truth is you need to focus your bad energy, your fear energy, onto things that are worth fearing. There is so much to be scared of in this world. That's one of my favorite things to do. Like it sounds like you're just trying to freak people out when you're like, oh yeah, there's a chance that a gamma ray hits the planet, we all die instantly. We'd have 12 seconds notice, so you would never know because there's no way you can be notified within 12 seconds. Just we'll all boil alive one day, And that can happen at any point in time if any star explodes in just the wrong way. Yeah, it's like a 1 in a million chance. But yeah, it could just, one day life on Earth might be wiped out as an entirety. Not like, oh, all human life. Like all life besides maybe some bacteria that are well below the surface. We would start again and it would be over. There's no way to know what's happening ahead of time. It just will happen and we'll all die. That's a nice way to, you know, go on like the "we are so small" thing, and remind you there are big things to fear. But even those things, I'd say don't sweat. Like you have to be more focused on, yeah, because that's too big. The too small is being worried about telling a joke in case everyone goes, "Oh, that's kind of awkward, Sandra. I don't know if I want to be around you anymore." I don't know why I'm imagining a teenage girl named Sandra not being able to tell jokes. Because let's be honest, there's a whole spectrum of people who are worried about putting themselves out there because they put themselves out there and it's not gone well at some point in the time. And so ultimately, you can't be worried about too small things like that. Like what, you know, like if you worry about that, what are you achieving besides harming yourself? If you worry about big things, what are you achieving besides harming yourself? There are real medium-sized fears you should be worried about. Like, you know, maybe in this forest someone is going to run at me with a knife. Nah, this is a forest, it's probably pretty fine. But you know, like what real instance to happen every day, motor collisions actually is a fun example. You should be really damn worried when you get in a vehicle that like today is the day you get in a crash. Like in your lifetime, statistically, you'll be in some crash or some incident, maybe I think is the correct term. Some accident. Oh yes, it was just a motor accident. There was no one at fault of this one. No, someone's going to do a dumb thing because they're, you know, like they're focusing their lizard brain on something they should be focusing their conscious brain on, and it's going to cause you to. So when you're driving, you should be thinking, if that guy is an idiot, how do I not collide with him? Because if you assume everyone else is smart, it'll go badly. You need to. We all need to, I should say, be worried about, like, okay, your health. Every day, you know, like, there is, like, your conscious brain can get really overworked. When it gets overworked, that's when you feel, like, tired and, like, you know, just over the top, like, this hurts, I just want to do nothing, I want to laze out on the sofa. The reason you want to laze out on the sofa and watch TV is because your unconscious brain can enjoy TV just great, and so your conscious brain can switch off. It's one of the reasons it's theorized that we need sleep, is your conscious brain can just turn off for so long in a row and recharge. Your conscious brain is like, you know, the difference is like having a little pew-pew water gun and having a giant super soaker or something. The super soaker can do much more damage, but it needs to be refilled from a tap. Whereas a little water pistol, you just put it in some water and it instantly refills. I think that's actually how, I think you can use the same analogy for lots of things. Maybe like, I don't know, the same way that you can run for longer than you can like ride a skateboard, but the skateboard will get you somewhere quicker because it's used, you know, like there's that's a terrible example. Ignore that, you know. Horses versus a car, maybe. A horse can go off terrain and go places. A car is only efficient on straight surfaces, but it's really efficient on those straight surfaces. So if you build out a society where everything's flat, cars can go everywhere all the time, and it's amazing. But if you're going to somewhere that hasn't been flattened, you're going to Antarctica. Actually, Antarctica's got like some flat bits, it's icy. If you go to like some mountainous region, a horse will get you there faster, even though the horse has to think about everything it's doing. The horse max speed is like 1/10 of a car's max speed. The horse needs to be fed and it needs all these extra requirements, but then it will get you there quicker. Your smart brain is your horse. Where am I walking to right now? I see a road. Yeah, I've definitely taken a wrong turn somewhere. Yeah, the interesting reality is that we have worrying about things that are too small is pointless. Worrying about things that are too big is pointless. Look at the actual biggest things you should worry about. It's probably heart disease. Look after your fucking heart. You have one of them, dude. Like, just like do things that are good for it. Don't eat too much salt, probably. You know, only have every other potato with some salt on it. That's clearly what your conscious brain can do for you. Yeah, have some like focus on the things that are that you can actually make an impact on. Yeah, this is real wacky. I don't know where I've ended up, but there's a man in a high vis on a horse ahead of me. clearly he's going somewhere that's not flattened for roads. Although most people that ride horses aren't doing it because it's like, it's more interesting, you know? Like I like skiing as a way of getting around more than I like the ski lift as a way of getting around, because skiing is about, it's harder, it's more engaging. We sometimes like doing engaging tasks. You can actually have the other way. Like the most common thing people get is their conscious brain is tired, their smart human brain is tired and their lizard brain isn't. You can get the other way. If you drive all day, you're desperate for some stimulation. Old people, when they sit and they're in a home all day and they're theoretically perfectly catered for, they love to do puzzles and whatnot. This is definitely incorrect. I have no idea where my car is parked now, because I assumed this would be the right direction. This is taking me to quite a, you know, actually no, let's go to the major road. I believe in never turning back, and that's gonna have to apply to today. I mean, I guess we'll walk down the main road wherever that takes us, and maybe it'll take us somewhere good. Yeah, we're like, people are worried about plane accidents because they're new and novel, but they're not worried about car accidents, which are all the time. People are worried about COVID, which had admittedly killed like 0.1% of the world population the last couple of years. But you want to know what percent of the world population was killed by various cancers in the last couple of years? I'll give you a clue, it got a lot higher because of COVID, funnily enough, actually. A lot of people weren't going to the hospital so scared of catching COVID that now there's a lot of, because people are so scared of catching an infectious disease, there are treatable diseases. Okay, I'm leaving the forest. That's a bad sign, but I guess it's a sign if nothing else. Yeah, this will get me where I need to be, probably. I have no idea where I am, but ultimately, like, being lost isn't a big fear. Like, I've got time today. My only big activity today is having some more calls with the insurance people. That's the only thing I have to deal with. And so, yeah, I'm gonna listen to a nice podcast. I've pained myself enough about these phone calls. I've had my stress, and now I'm gonna move on to stressing about other things that I really do need to be worried about. I need to be worried about health on my YouTube channel. I had the worst month of my channel's history in November. I lost subscribers for the first time, because channels always are losing subscribers, but usually they gain subscribers at a faster rate than they lose them. That's the general rule of thumb. And so yeah, even though that's the general rule of thumb, even though that's usually what happens, I had such a bad month. I did so few, I did not enough to gain subscribers in the current game of YouTube, that I lost some. I lost more people than I gained, and that's a bad sign. You don't want to be stuck in that for too long. You get in a death spiral if you start losing too many subscribers, because then people go, oh, this channel's dead, I'm not going to stop. And so, like, there's just some horse poop on the floor here, by the way. I'm just saying, I feel like it's kind of crazy that horses are allowed to just poop on the ground, and we will just say, yeah, we'll just leave it there. See, like that seems like actually insanity to me. But, you know, we live in a world of insanity, apparently. Speaking of living in a world of insanity, so yeah, that's a real concern. That's like my livelihood. It doesn't matter about £1,000 here if I'm talking about multiple potential thousands a month if I do things right, versus not having that if I do things wrong. You know, like we gotta deal with the big problems. We gotta deal with the real ones in my face rather than the ones that are behind. I have a lot of people who have told me sometimes it's like they'll tie it into ADHD or something. Sometimes they'll just say, like, this is just how my brain is. Like, it's really, really scattered inside of them. Their mind doesn't know what to focus on. And I have that so bad all of the time. One of the hard things to do is to get your conscious brain to work on what you want it to do. Your conscious brain is trying to outsource work as hard as it can. So if you're trying to think about, I don't know, Minecraft video ideas, how you can bring quality to the next level, etc, etc. If you're trying to think about a fun third channel idea to talk about while you walk around the forest. Actually what happened is I was trying to come up with ideas for my second channel, and then I decided, like, well, I'm in a forest anyway, I need to do some exercise, and so I'll have a little talk about something, and then on the way in I had the crash that made me think about stress, and how stress isn't actually all bad. you need some amount of stress in life. There's like every awful thing that exists has a reason behind existing. And I think one of the things I'd like to understand is why. Why do we have so many awful things in this world? Why do we have so many awful things inside our own body? Why does our body make us feel so damn bad? And the answer is because sometimes it just do be that way, don't it be? No, that's the actual answer is, how much battery do I have left? It says I got 4%. I gotta wrap things up. So yeah, I'm not gonna stress about the very stressful thing that happened to me, because ultimately now I know more about the procedure. If you crash into something, they ask you a bunch of questions, and from those questions they'll conclude whether you're at fault. It's important to do that as early as possible. I could see how in a collision with someone else, the other person would be like, oh yeah, he came into me. Because like in my head, one of my friends said, because I showed him a picture, he's like, there's a sign there, oncoming traffic should have yielded to me. And it's like, yeah, if someone else had done what they have done, like if someone else had followed the goddamn sign, I wouldn't have needed my car to be off the road, and so I wouldn't have hit the sign. Like ultimately it's still my fault. It's important to like say that, because I should, you know, like either I'm gonna like sit there and say no, I can't go off the road, it's dangerous for me, or when I go off the road I should know this is really potentially quite dangerous. I need to go at like 3 miles per hour till I'm distinctly back in the center. Maybe not even 3, like 2. Like I need to go the slowest speed possible until I am back in the center of this lane. And yeah, like but like immediately I'm like, yeah, I have footage, I probably have the guy's license plate. If I really wanted to make this problem go away for myself, I could try and blame it on that person for not following the priority rules, trying to make me go off the road, even though it was but I'm not like, it's not useful. That will add more stress to my life, trying to go after someone else, make my problems their problems. And honestly, like, guy probably wasn't thinking that much. Guy was just using his lizard brain. And so in a real collision where like maybe fault's 50-50, maybe fault's mostly someone else's and partially yours, or it's all theirs and none yours, people are going to justify themselves why that's about that. And now I know why and how that happens, and just to I took some pictures, some documentation, and I was like, well, it didn't come in useful this time, but I bet there's a case where that would be. With the picture I can actually see what happened so much clearer. You know, my friend could see the sign that said oncoming traffic so much clearer than if I use my memory. My memory's really shaky. My memory's like, oh, did I really just hit that? To be fair though, if you look at the video, I don't know if I'm going to release I was actually recording at the time I had the collision. I hit my my wing mirror just before that too. So like, you know, a collision was overdue. In fact, a collision I was clearly not correctly equipped for these roads, which is absolutely hilarious given what I was talking about in that video. Maybe I'll release it after this one. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the walk and talk. It's a new GoPro. I like buying a new piece of tech. Actually, wait, this is a beautiful way to end this one. So this is the exact place that it happened. So as you can see, there's a little passing place that the guy should have gone on the right there. I on the left get past him. So I went on this part of the road here, where I actually went, as you can see with the tire over there, is a little bit to the side there, really, really bad. And so as I'm like drifting up here, I think I'm now on the brown, but where you can see there's some more tire marks here, I'm not on the brown. And so what happens is, as I bring my wheel to the right, instead of the car going right, there's this just inopportune moment here where it goes left. And so I think it's coming right. It's not gone right. It's coming right, but not fast enough. And then boom, left side of the car just grazes this sign right here. Apparently brings up like a lot of the ground with it too, because I guess cars are heavy. And that's what happened. Now you know. Wasn't that fun to see from the outside perspective? Anyway, hope you enjoyed the Spur channel